What's up guys, welcome back to another GGF video. Now in our second level 20 case we'll be covering is a level 20 XT. Now this case is huge, you can probably see it next to me. It is a very large case and it very much resembles the older Thermaltake Core X9 which was released I think about 3 or 4 years ago. Now I have done a bit of a crazy build in this already. The time-lapse video has been up for probably about a week or so, so I'll throw that up here or in the description below. So if you want to see that build, I jam-packed so much gear in there. 3 radiators, 2 GPUs and so on. So if you're interested in that, check that out. But let's go and see how good this case is. Moving on to the next case in our Thermaltake level 20 coverage is the level 20 XT. If you're familiar with the older Thermaltake Core X9, then you'll feel right at home here. The level 20 XT shares the same internal chassis as the Core X9, but we see a few updates around the exterior to bring the case in line with the level 20 family. The level 20 XT is a big case, and I mean big, coming in at 515 high, 394 wide, 693 deep, and weighing a fraction over 20 kilograms empty. Yes, 20 kilograms. She's certainly going to be taking up room on your desk. Exterior wise, the level 20 XT follows a similar design as the level 20 VT we covered recently, just larger and support for more hardware, much more. Once again, we see 4mm thick tempered glass all round, with top and side panels being held in by thumb screws. Unlike on the VT, the panels on the XT are not interchangeable. Only the top panel has gaps for air exhaust. Around the front, there's a very similar design to the VT, but we see slightly larger gaps for air intake. With the front having the ability to cater for two 200mm fans, airflow shouldn't be too much of an issue, but I do recommend installing the fans inside the chassis and not in between the chassis and the front panel. Just like in the original Core X9, the XT has rather hefty sized feet, which lifts the case quite high off the ground. This gives a good opportunity for mounting bottom radiators and fans for better cooling. Speaking of the bottom, down here is where your PSU, storage and extra cooling is housed. If not using all the storage cages, there's room for up to a 480mm radiator with basically unlimited thickness. You can only install one large radiator down here, as the other side is for your power supply, but you're fixed to one side. The PSU can be swapped to either left or right side, or if not using a radiator or storage cages, you can install 2 power supplies if required. You can also install up to a 480mm radiator at the bottom on the sides, but I don't recommend doing this as air intake is very restrictive. Moving inside the XT, we can really see the sheer amount of room in here. Motherboard support is well going to cater for the largest out there. The motherboard tray is also removable via 2 thumb screws. GPU length is also unrestricted, as from the front to the back of the chassis you're looking at a whopping 580mm of space. The level 20 XT can hold a plethora of radiators, and big ones as well. The top can house up to 2 480mm radiators side by side, or 2 420mm radiators side by side. Top mounting is done via removable brackets that then clip in and are screwed in. Up to 60mm thick radiators can be installed up the top, but clearance issues may occur over the GPU side when using 60mm thick radiators. Over the CPU side, we encountered no issues at all. In our build, we managed to fit 3 480mm radiators in the XT. Front, we see support for up to 360mm radiators, as well as room for Thermaltake's 180mm radiator, and also their 360mm radiator, which can take 2 of their new RGB 200mm fans. You'll have no issues with radiator thicknesses here. Just keep in mind, when running 480 or 420mm radiators along the top or the bottom, they will interfere with the front radiator location. The rear of the XT can take either a 120 or 140mm radiator. Storage wise, there's 2 cages down the bottom, with each cage holding 3 caddies for 3.5-inch hard drives or SSDs, but both of these cages will need to be removed if installing a large radiator at the bottom. Also, one drive cage can be installed in front of your power supply. So an example of a bottom config could be a 480mm radiator on one side, then your PSU and drive cage on the other side. If you do remove both cages at the bottom, there is a secondary location for storage, and this is under the motherboard tray. The small tray pivots out, which can hold 1 3.5-inch hard drive or 2 2.5-inch SSDs, which is a nice touch. For pump mounting, the whole bottom of the chassis is filled with holes and slits, so you'll have no issues here. Dust filters are included at the front, 2 at the bottom and 1 at the top. These aren't magnetic, but more the push-in style that get held in by clips. Front I/O has been improved over the older Core X9, and it's nice to see the front I/O stays with the chassis when the front panel is removed. Up here we see audio ports, 2 USB 2.0, 2 USB 3.0, a USB 3.1 Type-C connector, which is a nice touch, reset switch, hard drive LED, and lastly, a power switch / LED combo button. Now the XT comes in at $199 US or 269 Australian dollars. Now this is the build here, just in case you haven't seen the time-lapse build video. In the video I did have quite a few comments about, well, what's the point of sort of covering up this area here, and then it's sort of restricting a lot of the bottom airflow, because I do have the two radiators here. I just purely did this just sort of for a show build. It isn't really practical for sort of a long time use, but in saying that, having 3 radiators in this system is going to keep this relatively cool. I've still got the gaps at the front here, but as people said in the video, yes, I have sort of blocked a lot of the incoming air from the bottom, because I do recommend, if you do pick up this case, I do recommend taking advantage of all the room at the bottom for air intake, especially all those grills. So throw some fans in there. If you want to throw your radiator in there, use that, because that's the best area where your air intake will come, because on the front is really restricted. So just keep that in mind. Another thing I want to point out, I did paint the case white. Had a lot of people saying, do they now have this in white? No, I did paint it. I just like doing various colors in cases, mainly white or the standard stock black. I just like the different contrasts you can create. And then another thing, the cover panels. I actually do wish that Thermaltake did sort of release some cover panels. I do have a lot of people asking me for the dimensions of these panels. I will throw them up somewhere, but they are sort of going to vary in length, because when you slot the side panel back on, you've got to leave a bit of a gap here because it does clip in. And then on the back, I had to make that cover panel a little bit shorter because I had cables running down here. So just bear in mind, if you do a system like this with your 2 radiators on the top, you'll have a heap of fan cables have to route somewhere. So I ran them both together along the middle, then around the back, and then around the side. So just keep that in mind. If you do have shorter fan cables, you may have to extend them. But yeah, that's pretty much it on this case. It's a nice case. It is big and it is very heavy. This is probably one of the heaviest builds I've done in a long time, and it is a struggle to lift, probably mainly because of its sort of shape. It's very squarish, it's very wide, it's very long, it's very high. It's not just like a tall, slim tower. But yeah, that's it on this build. I want to thank Thermaltake for sending this out. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.